Hope you all had a fantastic Mother's Day, and you just enjoyed the day. So I'm so grateful for all of you and for this community and these beautiful conversations and your guys' feedback and reaching out. Like that is such a pleasure. And I'm just so grateful and so thankful for all of you. So, like always, like, share, subscribe. Just keep growing the community. I want to talk about something today that I kind of struggle with, and I feel like women in general struggle with. And it actually is what really prompted me to write my book called Take Ownership. And my book will be coming out very soon. I'm super excited to share that with you guys. And so today's conversation is not going to be necessarily the fluffiest conversation. It's going to be some of that, like, a whole lot of love and truth and a whole lot of it and slather it all in grace, right? Like, and it could be one of those episodes that causes you to like grate on you like sandpaper. So I just want to say that up front that this conversation might be a little harder. This conversation might make you angry. It might invoke some emotions in you that you maybe were not prepared for. And that's okay, right? Like, growth is messy, growth is hard, leveling up, being better, working at being a better person for ourselves and for our family, learning to let God mold us into the masterpieces He desires for us, learning to live in abundance. Sometimes that is hard and that is messy. And today's conversation actually kind of hits in the middle of a messy couple of weeks for me, a couple of and a messier season than I want to be in. It's one that I haven't been in a while and I don't love it. I am honest about that. I don't love it. But I know growth is coming and I want to know that, like, these are things that I have learned from my life. This is me sharing my heart in things. This is not me coming at you from this higher, loftier view. I learned these things and I work on implementing these things because I lived these things. Like, I lived them. And so my heart today for you guys is good. My message today is maybe a harder one to hear, but I really feel like before we can jump off and keep working on building better habits and having some great conversations about doing great things with our life, we have to take a look at why we don't, why we hold ourselves back, why we live in this constant state of muck, or why we can live in and out of the muck, right? And let's be real, it's going to keep happening. I am in a season of it. That's what prompted me to really want to have this conversation with you guys. Is it is as much for me to remind me as it is to encourage you. Okay? So we're encouraging each other today with this conversation, and I'm super excited. So one of the things, my book is called Take Ownership, and that title was came from God. It was not anything I really thought about when I started reading or when I started thinking about writing the book, and it took me a long time to even really like pin down like what that meant. And for me, and I think for most of us who are wives, who are mamas, we feel like we are just constantly in this full pleaser mode. We have to just say yes to everything. We have to be there for everybody. We are the pleasers. We are the ones that jump up to help do whatever we need to do for somebody else. That's the life we live in. And that causes us a lot of times to feel stuck. And when we get stuck, then we want to blame somebody else in our life. We want to blame our kids. We want to blame our spouse. We want to blame our boss. We want to blame them that we are tired. We want to blame them that we are burnt out. We want to blame them that we aren't achieving the things we want to achieve. We want to blame them that we didn't get our workout in for the day. We want to blame them that we didn't have time to go to the grocery store. And we live in that that piece where we're so busy about being busy and doing for everybody else, but then it builds that root of, well, it's everybody else's fault. And for me, when I talk about taking ownership of your life, it really means, and this is so hard for me to talk about because it is really something I struggle so hard with. Like, we got to quit being victims in our own life. We have to quit feeling sorry for ourselves. We have to quit blaming it on everybody else that our life is a disaster or that we feel like it is a disaster, regardless of what other people see, right? Like, women, we're so good at like slapping on that frosting and being like this crappy cake, but with beautiful frosting and being like, we're here for the party. We have to like be real about this. And we can't make changes in our life if we will not get real. If we continue to blame, if we continue to point the finger, if we continue to say, if you would just do this, then I could do all these things, we never make progress. We never can get out of that cycle because we are always constantly hoping somebody else will say, oh, here's your ownership. I'm going to give it to you. Instead, we hope that that happens, but it doesn't happen. That's human nature. Doesn't Human nature says it's not going to happen. And so we have to quit feeling sorry for ourselves. We have to quit blaming others for our crappy habits, or blaming others for us being unhappy, or blaming others for the crap that's going on in our life. We cannot change that. We cannot change them. We cannot change their behavior. We cannot change their attitude. We can't change their choices. But you know what we can do, ladies? We can take ownership and change our responses. We can change the choices we're making. We can change the decisions we're making. We can change that. We can take ownership of our life and quit pointing the finger and blaming everybody. And when we can do that, we are no longer victims, we are conquerors. And that is what Christ has called us to be, is conquerors in this world. But we got to quit pointing the finger and blaming everybody else for us feeling unappreciated, unvalued, non-valued, however you want to say it. We have to quit pointing the finger and blaming them. And we have to say, I have to make different choices. I have to find my value in Christ. I have to take ownership of my choices and my decisions, because I cannot keep blaming them, hoping that they're going to do something different. And that won't work. That is ownership of our life, is simply saying, I am not going to point the finger at everybody else. I'm going to look in the mirror and have that really hard conversation with the person looking back at me. If you don't like where your life's at, you got to make different choices. You can't hope somebody else makes a different choice. And I don't know what that looks like for you. Maybe it's getting up earlier so you get your quiet time in. Maybe it's saying no to things that you really just can't do. You really just don't have time to do. And my book talks about this in great lengths, and the pain and the struggle and the agony that I walked through learning to take ownership of that. And anytime I notice in my life that I am unhappy with somebody because they have made me feel a certain way, I've given my ownership away. I've given it to that person and said, you get to pick how I feel, and you get to pick my value. And I've given that ownership away. And then we have to take it back, right? Like, then we have to do that process and get it back. And it's hard and it's challenging. And I so want it to be easier, but we have to. We have to have that ownership. We have to not look at our situation and blame those around us, but look at our situation and say, what can I do different? What can I do different in my life to make me feel better, to have ownership of my life? That's where we have to start. Because if we expect, as we start talking about building habits, and as we start talking about chasing our goals and chasing our dreams and having some of these tough, good conversations, if we are waiting for somebody else to tell us, go ahead, this is a good idea, if we are waiting for them to give us our ownership, we're going to be waiting forever because it's not human nature. That's not normal. That goes against, unfortunately, it goes against our grain of human nature. Our human nature says that as women, I feel like human nature, our culture, I feel like in some organized religions, in stuff like that, that there really is this push for pleasers. Yes, you just say yes as the wife. You just say yes as the mom. You just say yes. So the first thing we've got to understand in our life is we have to own it. We have to own our choices. We have to own our decisions. And if we don't like them, we have to make different ones. Okay, so that's going to be the first thing, right? Like that sucks and it's hard. I'm not, but it's so freeing when you do. It's so empowering when you do. It's so inspiring when you do. And it doesn't just inspire you or encourage you, it encourages other women. It encourages your daughters. And you know what else it does is it makes your family and your household run smoother and run better when you take ownership, when you're not blaming them in this, what women like to be in this passive aggressive, this, when we have this martyr syndrome going on, it takes that all away because we know we have that choice. We know we get to make those decisions. That is so important as we go. We cannot blame others. We have to own our crap, and then we have to deal with it, and we have to make better decisions going forward and different decisions. Okay, so that's one. The second thing that I want to talk about as we start digging in and clawing in and working on ourselves and becoming better versions of ourselves is we cannot expect others to jump on the boat and support us. We cannot expect others to see our goals, to see our vision, to see how we want to level ourselves to a better version. That we can't expect them to support us. If your change and your vision and your goals and your desire to be a better version of yourself is tied to somebody supporting you, you'll never make it. That's between you and God. If you have to have your husband's support to start working out, or to start eating healthy, or to start going to therapy to dealing with your crap, or to whatever, start eating healthier, whatever that is, if you have to have your husband's support to do that, you won't get it. I mean, even if he supports you, which would be amazing, right? But you can't put that pressure on him. He cannot fill that gap for you. You have to fill it for yourself. You have to choose to do the workout program because you want to take better care of your body. You have to choose to set better boundaries because you want to take better care of your emotional health. You can't expect them to support your dreams because it's not their dream. If you have great support and you have a ton of that, awesome. That's fantastic. But if you don't, that's okay. It is not their dream. It is not their goal. My goal is to encourage and empower women in my community, in my home, in across the states, worldwide. I want to empower and encourage women. That is my goal, to build a platform for women to know that we are in community doing this together. My husband's dream, he doesn't get it. He loves me, but he thinks I'm nuts. be mad about that because it's not his dream. It's my dream. And we can't expect others to see our dream. I heard a great analogy the other day on a podcast, and I cannot remember who said it, but it's not my analogy. I just heard it. And it said it's like God giving you a prescription for your glasses, and you put it on, and all of a sudden you see so clearly the path that God is leading you down. But if somebody else puts on your prescription, they can't see anything. It's fuzzy and it makes their eyes burn. And they're like, I don't see your vision. I don't see your goal. And they give you back your glasses. And instead of putting your glasses back on, you must think, oh, this prescription has to be wrong. And we don't put them on again. The prescription, the vision, the goal, the desire to be better, it's yours. It's yours alone. And nobody else will get that because they don't have that same vision. God didn't give it to them. But if you have that vision, and it can be we're going to start with like tiny little visions and changes in our lives. Nobody else may or may not support you, but God gave you that vision. He gave you that desire. If you want to run a 5K, that's your goal, that's your vision, then nobody else is going to see it. That's yours. Easiest example for me is I have a 14-year-old daughter who wants to be in the Air Force and fly C-130s. That is not my vision. I cannot see that, but she sees it. And she sees it perfectly crystal clear. And all I can do is say good and support her the best I can, but it's not my vision. When we have to have somebody else's support for our vision, and we have to have them saying, yes, I see it. Yes, you can do it. Yes, you're going to do great. We are always running the risk of when they say, nope, you can't do that. What? No, that's a terrible idea. Why would you want to do that? We let that extinguish our flame. It extinguishes our flame. We no longer can understand why this is a good idea. You're right. It's stupid. You're right. It was dumb. It was dumb to want to run a 5K. I'm too old. I'm too busy. I'm too whatever. You're right. You're right. I should never have even thought of dreaming to do that. BS, bull. If that's your dream, who cares? Look at all those naysayers and you keep your eye on Jesus and you just keep following your dreams. But if we wait until we have that support, if we wait until they're all in our corner, if we wait until they're all cheering with this big sign saying, go, 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 you may never, ever even get started. And that is not what God called us to do. No, not everybody is going to support what you see. They didn't get that prescription from God. They didn't get that vision. They didn't see what God had shown you. And that's okay. You know, you can see it. And that's what matters. You do not have to have everybody in your corner before you step out. I wrote 30,000 words in my book before I told most people I was writing a book. Because it was my goal, it was my vision. They couldn't see it. I'd never written a blog, a word a day in my life past my teaching curriculum, excuse me. They couldn't see it. Still to this day, some of them can't see it. But I know it's not their prescription. It's not their vision. And we cannot wait for them to get in our corner before we start. If you want to get healthy, get healthy. Do it for you, for you. Don't wait for somebody to be like, high five, you can do it, girl. If you want to write a book, just write the words, get to writing. If you want to learn how to be a better chef, if you want to change lives and start a nonprofit, if you want to be the best freaking mother in the entire world, if you want to get a black belt in karate, if you want to fly airplanes, run marathons, if you want to learn how to crochet, nobody else has to support you. Nobody else has to believe in you. You have got to believe in yourself. And you want to know what will happen? You'll make a step, and you'll make another step, and you'll make another step. And before long, you are running with momentum. And all of a sudden, you get an email that says your book is going to be published, and you're like, yes, I did it. You're going to cross the finish line of your first 5K, and you're going to be like, yes, I did it. Whatever it is. And you did it for you. You did it with your prescription and your vision that God gave you. And that is powerful. But if we wait till somebody is standing in our corner cheering for us, until we wait for our spouse or our kids or our mother or our mother-in-law or our sister-in-law or our sister, if we have to have their support before we can step out, you're going to miss it. They'll show up. They'll be there eventually, but they can't see it because it's not their goals. It's not their vision. That's what I love about this community. My goals and my visions are what God has given me. And you guys have beautiful visions and goals that God has given you. And that's what we're doing here. We're encouraging and supporting. We're filling that gap sometimes when some of those who are closest to us can't fill it. That's what we're about. High-fiving, in your corner, on your side, rooting for you to fill that gap when you need support. That's what this community is for. But as we start to make changes in our lives, and as we start to let the potter keep molding his clay, and as we keep leveling up, and as we keep working to be better versions, we have to remember not everybody is going to support those changes. Not everybody is going to stand in that corner. And we can't stop just because they don't. Just because they don't get it. Just because they don't understand it. Just because they don't want anything to change. We have to keep persevering. We have to keep pursuing. Because that is what God is calling us to do. To run the race well. And we want that. Now, does that mean that you just flip a switch one day? We talk about this all the time. No, it is a practice. Some days you kill it and you feel amazing. Some days it's hard. Leveling up, being molded is hard. We talk about that. But as we continue to chip away and we find ourselves on solid footing with God, we all of a sudden take that ownership, and we're not blaming. We're not pointing the finger at the reasons why we can't do things. We're not pointing the finger at everybody else saying it's all your fault that I can't finish my 5K. It is all your fault because I can't eat healthy. It is all your fault because I can't finish my book. We're going to stop that. Because now we're owners of our life. We've taken ownership. We've taken ownership. We've taken it back. And now we're saying, I have ownership of my life. We're not blaming, we're owning. And that is powerful. That is so powerful. And then we're going to take that ownership, and on the days when they don't believe in you, or they don't want to support you, or you don't have anybody in your corner or backing you up, you are still going to say, this is the path God has called me on. This is what is best for me. This is what is going to make me be a better mom. This is what is going to make me be a better wife. This is where I need to focus my energy. And I'm sorry you can't support me. I'm sorry you don't see it, but the prescription, the vision came from God. It's for me. It's for me. And I'm going to support you in your vision. And I'm hoping you're going to support me in mine, but I'm going to take those steps even if you don't. There's power in it, ladies. There's so much power. And I want us, as we work, as to be better versions, to be better for ourselves, to be better for our families, for our communities, to be shakers and movers who do big things. I want us to live in that ownership. I want us to live in knowing that God has given us those visions and those desires and those prescriptions for our life. And when we walk in that, it is the most beautiful and freeing thing you can ever imagine. And I want that for you guys. I want that. I want you to feel what that feels like because it feels amazing and it feels empowering and it feels freeing and it feels like ownership. I love you guys. I am so, so grateful for these conversations. And this week, I probably needed this one as much as you guys did because it's so easy to lose sight. But we are conquerors. In Christ, I am a conqueror. In Christ, you are a conqueror. And this week, we're going to take ownership of our lives and we're going to keep working and keep practicing and getting better all the time. Like always, I love you guys. I am in your corner and I am on your side. Have a fabulous week.